Who's calling the shots in your life? Hi, I'm Doris McMillan. Welcome to the weekly broadcast, Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin. Who gets the last word about how you do life? You or God? Jesus said if you want to experience the best life possible, you must allow Him to be in the driver's seat. You're the passenger. Only He knows the exact route to get you where He wants you to go. Today, Cheryl introduces you to a woman who said yes to God, and it's led to a remarkable life. Patty Harris was completing her doctorate in education when she sensed a shift in her career and calling. She tells Cheryl her story.
Patty, I've had the privilege of knowing you for at least 25 years, and I would describe you as a woman who said yes to God and His will for your life. In fact, you said yes before you knew the question. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as one who has been seeking God for years, ever since I was a little girl, and wanting to know this God. I wanted to know the God of my grandmother, particularly. And so I spent many years pursuing God in my heart, and not feeling satisfied until I was called into salvation at the age of 16.
But that new life took a turn years later, and you ended up walking away from God. Why?
Well, that new life was pretty much lived out in solo form. My parents did not want me to continue visiting that church, and so I really went very inward, and I decided that nobody was going to turn me against this new faith that I had. I was much too happy and satisfied that I was in with God, so to speak, and so I made a decision that I was going to be the most fervent Christian that He had ever brought into His family. And so I actually became extremely zealous and reveled in being a fanatic, and didn't mind being persecuted and ridiculed. That was the best. The better I felt when I was getting ostracized. So Paul said in one place that he was a fool for Christ, and I said, yes, that's what I want to be. So I carried that on for years, even when I went into college, and worked so hard, self-appointed missionary agency on the whole campus. But I hated it because I had this terrible, what can I say, an image of God that was still very pagan. I saw Him as a mean person. He was angry. He was vindictive, and He wanted to make my life miserable because He wanted me to be this perfect, holy person. And I did things like fasting so much until I could hardly walk, broke my health, and so I did not enjoy doing, because it was out of great fear that He would drop me into hell if I didn't preach to the next person who was standing next to me. And so eventually, when I got out of college and started teaching, I just thought, I can't live this way anymore.
You had an unhealthy fear of God.
Very unhealthy. I didn't know anything better. And even though I had a college friend who tried very much to tell me about grace, I just thought, no, this can't be. I haven't, you mean to tell me I'm doing all this work for nothing? So I just pushed all of that away.
Your Christianity was performance-based.
Completely, but that's all I knew. And in a way, that's all I saw. But after that, Cheryl, I was silent. I had no more to say to God for 10 years. It was years where the Lord just used various circumstances that would force me to turn to him, and I did. And he brought me back to himself. You know that verse in Hosea? It says, I drew them to me with affection and love. I picked them up and I held them to my cheek. And that's what he did.
What did you do to develop a grace relationship with God versus a legalistic one?
It came first from observing others. By this time, I had gone to graduate school. I was there at the University of Massachusetts, and I found a student Christian organization, and I quickly knew I had to get into something, and just to save my spiritual life. By that time, I had recommitted myself in some way, and they were different. The students actually enjoyed Jesus. They enjoyed spending lots of time thinking about and strategizing and how are they going to make the issue of Christ known on this campus. I mean, they loved it. And, they were fun. They enjoyed the beauty that the Lord had brought into their lives. And I was just fascinated by this. And so they were used by the Lord to help me enter into the whole realm of his grace. It was like discovering Jesus for the first time. I started to see him as, kind and good, and he was emotionally healthy. He hadn't ordained all of those terrible pictures of him. That did not delight his heart. In fact, it was grievous to him. But it was the beginning of that, of seeing it and then feeling it through others who truly loved me and accepted me and were not critical and all those things that I thought God was. So that was the beginning.
While you were there, you learned about what was then known Campus Crusade for Christ, and then you became a full-time vocational missionary with Campus Crusade for Christ, now known as CRU, in 1979. What led to that decision, since you were initially on the track as an educator working on your doctorate?
The joy that I saw in them and the other Christians who were coming to Christ, and then I myself getting involved in discipling other women and seeing actually changes in their lives. And so that had a great effect. A couple of years later, when I was still in graduate school, but I was living in Rhode Island, working in Rhode Island, there was a national campaign that CRU had. It was called I Found It, and you can find it too. And so I had enough time to be able to work with that project. It was in many, many cities around the country. And so being able to see people respond to Christ so easily and to be a part of helping them to see who he was and to be introduced, I thought, I think I like this. And so all of that went into softening my heart about, you could do this more. You could be involved with others who have decided to spend their entire life in this enterprise.
That was Patty Harris, a career missionary for more than 35 years with CRU, formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ. Patty said yes to God's call with no regrets. She holds a doctorate in education from the University of Massachusetts. You're listening to Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin. To learn more about this program, just visit our website, excellentliving.org. That's excellentliving.org. Let's return to Cheryl's conversation with Patty Harris.
What has this journey been like for you?
God specifically chose this path for me in order to keep me from having a mediocre Christian life. Now, because I know my own ways, I know how easily it is for me to get off track. And so he put me in a situation where things are structured so that his purposes, his work, his mission is surrounding me, reminding me 24 hours a day. I am in a kind of a structure where my work for him is being looked at, being helped, being strengthened by others. I'm able to use all the resources of all of these thousands of people to help me to bring more fruit into the kingdom. It helps me to have constant reminders of how to draw closer to Christ and how to be able to pour that into the life of others. It's just he allowed me to be in an environment that I find to be exhilarating because there are others of like-mindedness and who want to help each other to keep their eyes on that prize that we're going to enjoy so much when we present ourselves and the people that we've been helpful to bring into a relationship. When we do all of that, when we stand before him, when he appears.
Now, you have been with Crew for more than 35 years, and during that time, you've had various assignments. Quickly share with us the different kinds of opportunities that you've had so we can get a sense of what a modern-day missionary looks like, because I think a lot of us may have images of a missionary going to Africa, going to Asia, but talk about the path for you very quickly.
I've been able to use my gifts and talents and the training as a teacher. And so I've been able to pull all that together to do this work. Now, for example, let's see, maybe around 2010, I was with one of the ministries of Crew called Christian Leadership, and that's the faculty ministry. At the time, I was with Christian Leadership at the University of Delaware, and so 2010, I pulled together some women professors, and we went to do speaking in universities. So I was able to have them to speak, and then I did some speaking. We did that in South Africa and also in Kenya. So in that way, was always able to pull from my own experiences as an educator. And that would be South Africa. Let's see, there have been a couple of trips to Haiti where I had teams of women to go to be a part of the Jesus Film Mission Project. And so we were able to be a part of the community evangelism using the Jesus Film, but at the same time to be speaking to groups. I think another one of the projects that I did there in Haiti included a medical team. And so the medical team, along with the community evangelism, along with some teaching was a part of that. Jamaica, that was another time of teaching. The Philippines and Korea, those were times of assisting the ministry that had pulled together a conference there to be able to help in administering that conference. I did take a stint to Kenya to be an instructor there in Nairobi and also in Mombasa as a trainer. There is what is the East Africa Great Commission Training Center. So I was able to teach new staff people from that area, from Kenya and from Ethiopia and Tanzania, to be ready to start their work in those areas. And students would be there for several months, and we all lived there together. So that's a little bit of what I did when I went overseas for crew.
Has there been any assignment, has there been any assignment that has been the one that you have just thoroughly enjoyed more than any others? Most gratifying?
I am now a part of the global prayer movement. Now, what it is, it's an evangelism, discipleship, internet ministry. And there are many, many websites that have been developed, and people from all over the world introduced to Christ as they read the material, and they are given an opportunity to receive Christ as their Savior or to ask for help to grow as a Christian. Or some of them may not be ready to respond, but they ask for help as they investigate who this person of Jesus is. Well, millions come. There are times when there might be 1 million people a day, and there are thousands of what we call online missionaries, and I'm one of them, and able to even be the community leader for a whole group of other online missionaries. I'm just astonished. I am amazed at even something like having people to respond to articles and materials and Bible studies that they have to pull up on their little computers way over there. Excuse me, I said computers, I mean their cell phones over there in these other countries. And how they respond, I'm every day, I'm amazed that here I am able to use everything I know, all of the experiences of my life, good and bad, everything goes into responding to these men and women who are so eager and so hungry to know God.
Now, Patty, one aspect of being a full-time missionary is the need to raise support. And I believe that this reality has actually kept many African Americans from going on the mission field. What has it been like over the years for you to have a passion for doing this work, but in reality you need to raise support in order to do it, since this is your full-time job?
Yes, it is. It is a great challenge, and it has been. And it continues to be for many. But those who are there have seen great faithfulness in God. And there's so many who are there, which makes you know that God was prodding and urging and moving on other people to see the value of investing in these men and women. And then God is the one who begins moving more and more to change the perceptions that maybe churches and others who may have not been so enthusiastic about it. Now I'm seeing such a new wave, a new surge of interest and wanting to help. So, each year you're seeing more and more minorities come on staff. And so it's a good reminder of when, as I think it was Hudson Taylor said, when you're doing things, if you're doing things God's way, He will provide. And I think that is becoming our new reality. So, yes, there have been times when it's been hard, tough, but 38 years. And I have the most wonderful team of supporters. So it's just as the Lord moves on people's heart to receive Him and to respond to Him spiritually, as we pray, He moves on others' hearts to become investors and to see that this is an investment that will be good for eternity.
You have never married. Has your singleness been an asset or a liability as a missionary?
I see it as an asset, really. I came on as an older single woman. And so as an older single woman, I knew I had to count the cost. And the cost is knowing that the pool of eligible people, eligible men, who would have the same passion, the same interest, who would be in my age category, would be a little slim. And so recognizing that, and recognizing that that would be the reality probably forever, then that has to be settled. And so I settled it early on. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't have struggles with it, but I had a friend who said, I'm just going to pray. I'm going to pray that you will become content, that you'll be contented in your singlehood. And she answered, the Lord answered that prayer. He answered it in a marvelous way. So I have not been looking back with regrets because of making that determination of knowing this may not happen for me, and let me see what else God has.
What would be your advice to an older woman, let's say she's over 35, over 40, who still longs to be married, and that's her constant prayer?
There's another dimension of the Christian life to look at. I would say that this is a time to discover what the Lord meant when He said, I've come to give life and to give it more abundantly. And even though that wish is there, and it's good to continue having it because God has not finished with His promises, and He's not finished with His purposes. But in the meantime, while that wait is going on, there is something else that can be delved into. And I think the exploration of seeing what did he mean when he said, I've come to give life and to give it more abundantly, and to be an explorer of that, because I think this is where I've come to get my greatest joy as a single woman, and to be able to see, this is a gift of time, and it takes time to explore the heart of God. And I think that verse that Jesus is talking about, come and to give life and more abundantly, means that there is so much there that we can have excursions into the heart of God, and to know that this is what is going to be what we are going to be enjoying for all eternity.
Well said. Patty, thank you so much for sharing part of your story with us. And I can just say a personal thanks for how you have impacted my life. And I had the privilege of you discipling me for years.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for being a part of my life.
Our guest on Excellent Living today, Patty Harris, a career missionary for more than 35 years with Cru, formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ. Patty is a sterling example of what God can do through one life totally committed to Him. She has impacted so many lives for the kingdom of God. We hope this interview has inspired you to say yes to God's will for your life, even if it includes serving as a missionary. Remember, where God guides, He provides. Remember, excellent living is doing life God's way, because it's the best way.